Welcome to Politics Done Right on KPFT. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Give me a call at 713-526-5738. That is 713-526-KPFT. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics and Run. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show today because you know what? We have some great candidates in here, and we also have a great activist in here, right, Senor Ibanez?
I'm here.
You're here. So we're going to have a great show. You know, we've been talking a whole lot about this great blue wave and bringing folks in and making sure that progressives get their fair due and that good stuff. But folks, let me remind you that is only going to happen. How is that going? I tell you what, I'm going to before I even talk and ask the candidates for their names, I'm going to ask them, how is that going to happen? Mademoiselle, how is that going to happen?
This is Penny Shaw, and I am the Democratic candidate for Harris County Commissioner Court Precinct 4. And I just want to say that we have been working really hard for the last year, trying to get out to all kinds of places across the county to meet folks, to meet the voters, to meet our neighbors, to get them to put a face to the name, and to let them know how important it is to consider this particular office, Commissioner's Court, because it has such a direct impact on their daily lives.
Actually,
and we've
Penny,
been doing all that so that to inspire them to make sure they're ready to vote.
Penny.
Yes.
Don't jump the gun, Penny. We are going to go into
Okay.
all of that.
Okay.
But here's the other thing. I want you now, Mike, to tell me what it is that we have to do about this blue wave thing, if this blue wave thing is going to occur.
Don't jump the gun.
Yeah.
I think the simple answer to your question, Egberto, is people power, right? I mean,
I love that.
It's all about the people. And, you know, I'm running for Congress in the Texas 10th against a guy who has $400 million. And
Whoa.
he's a very wealthy individual, Michael McCall, the Republican in this district.
He has $400 million.
You might have heard of Clear Channel Media.
Yes, of course.
He married the heiress to Clear Channel Media. And
Wow.
But the thing is, he can't buy people, right?
No.
Mhm.
And so when we get out and knock on doors and make phone calls and send text messages and all that, he can't buy people to do that. And so that really is the antidote to money in politics and the corruption of our system is the people getting out and voting.
Well, you know, we work at a system with a group called Coffee Party USA, and that is one of the things that we are pushing right now, and that is get money completely out of politics, and we have a lot invested into make sure we do that. So that, what is his name again? McCall?
Yeah.
To ensure that he can't do his thing. But anyhow, let's get busy with the show, folks. Let's get busy with the show if I can actually find the show. Here we go. Title of the show: 2 candidates putting themselves on the line to ride the blue wave. And they don't want me to get ahead of the blue wave, but I'm telling you what I'm saying. I've already spoken against the blue wave. Now I'm in a cheerleader thing on the blue wave. Every district in Texas, whether local, statewide, or national, are being challenged. Many of these races depend on a materializing blue wave that can only happen if you vote, just like Penny and Mike said. Anyhow, moving on. Today, we are honored to have 2 candidates. And by the way, we're not going to have the blog of the week today because we want to spend the time speaking to these great candidates that are going out there to win. So we're not going to have a blog of the week today. Anyhow, today we are honored to have 2 candidates that stepped up to the plate to run in difficult districts. One county, the other federal. Progressives must always be ready for the call, and we owe a huge thank you for all of those who have stepped out. So Penny, thank you. Mike, thank you, who have altered their lives to serve. It is imperative that everyone performs their civic duty. And that means you people, you got to go out there and vote. We have to really start performing in Texas. We're not a red state. We're not a purple state. We're a state where people don't vote. And we've done, for those of you who read my blogs, you've heard all what we've spoken about, that this is a progressive state when you ask people for their values. Anyhow, with us is Penny Shaw. Penny Shaw is running for Commissioner's Precinct 4 in Harris County. She has been an attorney for 17 years, working in multiple states, owner and administrator of 3 businesses, a U.S. congressional legislative advocate for 6 years, and a mother of 4. You're busy. Penny has successfully worked alongside anti-human trafficking organizations in Texas to research and implement effective strategies and laws to protect Texas boys and girls from being trafficked. As a member of the Houston Volunteer Lawyers, her record of volunteer work defending community members in court has been honored and recognized for the past 3 years by the Texas Pro Bono Lawyer College. Ms. Shaw intends on developing, leading, and pushing forward a comprehensive flood plan. I'm from Kingwood, so I know how desperate we need that. And for my Republican folks in Kingwood, you know, you guys are my buddy. We have Starbucks coffee all the time together. This is a time when you have to use your head and vote your economic interests. Don't vote your ideology, your economic interests. Ms. Shaw intends on developing, leading, and pushing forward a comprehensive flood plan for Harris County to safeguard the homes and property of Harris County residents. She said she will enhance programs for senior citizens, practice transparent fiscal responsibility, and open the lines of communication, something you know you don't have right now, between the commissioner's office and the community to ensure accountability and responsiveness. In doing so, she will ensure that tax dollars are used responsibly and benefit the community. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Egberto.
All right, now the other person in the house is Mike Siegel. He has let me tell you, Penny Shaw has it difficult enough with her district. But Mike, what kind of district is that you got, buddy?
It really gives meaning to that word gerrymandering. I mean, I woke up in Austin, Texas, and drove all the way here, and I've been in my district the whole time.
The whole time? You didn't even have to, you know, after I figured out that, you know, who you were, I went ahead and mapped out your district, and I'm like, oh my God, how do you talk to all these people? You're going to put a lot of gas miles on your car.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, tens of thousands already.
Yes, I can imagine. Anyhow, Mike Siegel is currently the assistant city attorney of Austin, Texas. He's running to represent Texas' 10th congressional district. Go look that up, folks. It's an interesting looking district. Born into a union household, Mike Siegel was a former public school teacher in under-resourced schools. The profession I consider the most important in our society. You guys know what I feel about teachers. Don't see how teachers vote sometimes the way they do, but hey, I'm not talking here. I have to behave myself. Serving thousands of youth in free after-school and summer programs. Mike decided to go back to school to get his law degree with the goal of impacting systemic change. And I love that word, systemic change. It's not just about your local change all the time. Sometimes it has to be systemic to be effective. He began his law career as a civil rights attorney, representing individuals affected by discrimination and retaliation, and challenging local and state policies that targeted vulnerable minority groups. Mike Siegel is the lead attorney for the city's challenge to Senate Bill number 4. And you guys know that corrosive piece of bill well, and helped to obtain a preliminary injunction against the unjust and misguided law that targets Texas Latinos and immigrants. He also fought for the rights of tenants in decrepit housing projects and defended the city against multiple politically motivated lawsuits filed by an indicted Texas Attorney General, Ken Paxton. You know, imagine that, the Attorney General indicted. Okay, continuing. Through his candidacy, Mike seeks to unite the various communities of the 10th Congressional District, big job, who are thoroughly unrepresented by the current congressman. From Austin to Houston, Bastrop to Prairie Review, he says that everyone deserves to have their voices heard.
Thanks so much for having me, Egberto. This is a wonderful opportunity. Really appreciate being here.
Well, that is what we do here. And not only that, we need to ensure a district this big, you have to be you have to take every opportunity to speak to the people. So what is the first thing that you're going to do when you are elected on November 6th for the folks in your district?
You know, the issue in this district, even though we have these different regions, you know, we've got Travis County, which is like the blueberry and the tomato soup. Then we've got 7 rural counties. Then I've got Katy, Cypress, and Tomball here in Harris County. The number one issue is healthcare. Mm-hmm. And that means different things in different places. Right. I mean, everybody needs access to care, insurance, But in the rural areas, you're also talking about hospitals. I mean, these folks, 2 rural hospitals have closed in my district in the last years. So if you're a mother that wants to give birth in a place like LaGrange, Texas, and you think you might have a complication with your pregnancy, you have to drive 90 minutes to get to a good hospital. And to me, that's obscene. It's kind of unequal access to resources we have in this district. So really, healthcare is number one for me.
Now, it's interesting, right? Because, and we've spoken about this a whole lot of times, and I know that the people of your district, the people of Penny's district, and all these districts are concerned about this. When the Affordable Care Act was passed, there's this addendum called the Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care Act, which would have given an additional 1 million Texans health insurance. Here's an interesting fact that I don't know if people realize. That bill, or rather, we are currently as Texans, our tax money as Texans right now are paying for that Medicaid expansion right now. And we've left it on the table. Is that fiscally responsible?
No, it's obscene. I mean, these folks like Governor Greg Abbott, they refused money that would take care of Texans, save people's lives, just because they hate President Obama. Just because it's associated with Obamacare, they turned it down, which is ridiculous, and it's not representing the needs of the people here.
And it's a disservice, actually, to our community to not ensure that they have a basic need like medical care coverage.
Now, Commissioner's Court has a field into the healthcare in this county, in Harris County, right?
It does, Egberto, it does. It's actually over Harris Health, and that's one area, but it also has the ability to spend our county tax dollars on, for example, teen health clinics in schools.
Right.
And in the precinct that I'm running for, Precinct 4, there are none of those.
Right.
We do have a few examples of that in Commissioner Ellis's precinct, and those serve the community. It's a responsible and good way to spend our tax dollars to empower our communities in a way that affects their health care, especially given what you just explained about.
Now, so what you're saying is that kids in the Woodlands, kids in Kingwoods, kids, these are different parts of your
Yeah.
give me another town in your
Cypress, Tomball, Jersey Village.
Those kids that are having certain types of problems right now, their current government is denying them the coverage that they could have otherwise had.
Yes, they're not extending those services to them, and most of them probably are not aware that they could have those services, but in fact they can, and at a very low cost to the county.
And I think that is your job to keep them informed on that, right?
Yes,
that is your
absolutely.
job as well, to make folks know that they qualify for things that they can't get because the people currently in office are denying them that opportunity.
And not only make sure they know, but my job is to actually implement them again. And we once had that when Sylvia Garcia was a commissioner. We did have many of those services implemented, but when she left office, they were eradicated. And I intend to reincorporate them to serve the community. Now,
as we said, healthcare is one of those things that are still the most important thing that affects folks. Right now, the way the Senate is set up, it is set up with, let me say one thing to my folks first. Anybody who are the opponents of these candidates here have the right to be on this show as well. So that's an open invitation for any one of you. Now I can ask this. That is very important, FEC rules. Anyhow, here's what I wanted to ask you. The current batch of people in Congress, in Senate, and in not only local, not only state, but also where you're going to serve, which is federally, they are all the candidates that you guys are running against. They are all opposed to giving health care to their constituents. Is that correct or not?
That's right. Yeah, this is Mike Siegel. I'm running the Texas 10th, which is represented by a gentleman named Michael McCall, who votes with Donald Trump 98.9% of the time. And yeah, he voted to repeal the Affordable Care Act. He didn't have any replacement in place. He's made no effort to improve health care. And he's just party line along with Trump, just voting against health care all down the line.
Now, I'm going to make a statement that you as candidates probably can't make, but I try to put it in people's heads all of the times. And this is a very important statement. Folks, the definition of murder is knowingly causing the death of others. And one of the most evil types of murders is killing those who you know. If you don't consider that when you go to vote, I wonder what else would you not consider? Because I tell you what, there was a study done, I think it was by Texas A&M University. I don't remember, Texas or one of these other universities. The lack of health care in Texas is causing the deaths of 2,000 people plus per year. That said, most of these people that are dying are not the people in states, or rather living in, let's say, the cities that generally vote for people who would support the Affordable Care Act, but in places that you represent, Mike. How do you get across to those people that it is time for them to keep their ideology, just vote appropriately to ensure they continue to live?
Right, vote for your own material interests. I mean, whether you're talking about healthcare or housing or even food for people who don't have food, the Republican Party is literally, like you say, voting to end people's lives. In a statistical sense, they know that if they deny housing to people, that's going to be more unnecessary deaths. If they deny healthcare, we're going to have a greater maternal mortality rate. And so what we have to do is really go straight to the people. I mean, that's the strategy of my campaign. You know, I have 750 volunteers who are working in 9 counties. And we know we can't get on the television airwaves, but we can get to people's doors. We can call them on the phone and text them. And it's just presenting that message that we're fighting to protect you.
Well, that is important. And Penny, what do you have to say about that?
I would say bad on the elected officials for depriving the citizens of any resources and putting them in danger, whether it's lack of health care, denying those kind of resources, or lack of a flood plan or preparedness plan that puts them in danger. I would say bad on the elected officials for that. And I hope we don't say bad on the voters for not changing it.
Well, yeah, I think that is important. But what I think is important is for all of you to have a voice, because, you know, a lot of times we blame voters, but a lot of times I'm more kind with voters in that the voters are not informed. One of the reasons we have a Politics Done Right or a Majority Report or some of these other independent news programs is to do exactly this, what you guys are able to do, and that is to go on air and tell folks what they need to, you know, tell folks what you're going to do for them, but also tell folks what's not being done for them purposely.
And I just want to say that out there talking to people, like Mike said, I've heard to some degree the public say, you know, they're kind of lost a little bit of their faith in politicians because of all of the things that have happened that are negative, and feeling like, you know, will I really make a difference? And I just want to say that you will make a difference, because 1 vote may not seem like a lot, but when you put that together with 2 votes, 4 votes, 6 votes, 100 votes, 200 votes, it adds up. And that really is going to make all the difference in October, early voting, and in November. It's going to make all the difference. And just a quick note, Mike and I aren't really politicians. I mean, we've never run for office before. And in fact, I didn't know until today that we both had in common. We both started out as civil rights lawyers. That's how we both started our career. And that's who we are. And that's who I've been for the last 25 years. And I'm sure Mike has too. And we'll continue to do that. We're more of advocates than and that's why we're running for office. So I think that makes a big difference when people are feeling apathetic or a little bit hopeless. They can know that these are not seasoned politicians running. These are people who have proven records of caring about people and actually doing something about that.
Mike?
Well, thank you, Penny, for the plug. And, big picture, I'm trying to also model a different type of representation.
That is?
I'm running up against a guy who hasn't held a public meeting in 10 years.
Really?
I mean, he does not expose himself to any questions from the public that are not pre-screened and sorted by his staff. I mean, no town halls. And so meanwhile, Penny and I put on a town hall right before the bond election about flood control in Harris County. We made ourselves available to the public. We talked about the need for strategy, for solutions. And that's the kind of, starting from the bottom politics that I believe in, is that your representatives should actually be accessible to the people you're supposed to be representing. And so hopefully we're modeling that.
Absolutely. Folks on the phone, I'm going to take your calls, but I just want to ask a couple more questions to the candidates, and then we'll open the line so that you can come in. Now, you have a tough district. We have to be honest about that. A very tough district. There's 38,000 people who voted in the Democratic primary, 52,000 who voted in the Republican primary. That's a delta of 14,000. When I look at the map, you have a big chunk, however, of of Harris County, which was purposely done to dilute a particular sect of voters in Harris County. It seems like that's an area for activation to make up for stubborn areas in your district. Have you done some of that, or?
That's right. Yes, of course. This is a district that was redrawn in the big gerrymander 2004, 2005. It used to be a hill country district.
Right.
The 10th used to be where LBJ was. I mean, this is an historic district that was only recently changed. And it was designed to be 60% Republican. So we have 25% of Austin, then these 7 rural counties, then a slice of Harris County. But the thing is that with demographic change, this district has gotten much more favorable to us. So those same things that are pushing people out of cities like Austin and Houston, you know, high property values and taxes and so forth, now make cities like Katy and Cypress much more diverse, much more purple. And so it's our job to reach out to these folks that are newly in these communities and say, hey, you know what? We're here to fight for you. You don't have to be afraid to be a Democrat. I don't know if you know of this phenomenon. We have a lot of undercover Democrats in Texas.
I used to be very active in my Democratic group in Kingwood, and I can tell you that we had quite a few people that started to come out, and in fact it was so well that our float in Red Kingwood won the best float.
There you go. Yeah. Yes. So we just have to communicate to folks that, hey, it's safe to come out, you know, that you have neighbors who are with you on the same side, and if we all fight together, we can win.
Oh, absolutely. I think progressives, there's one thing that I constantly say though, and I really respect in listening to both of you, and that is I think candidates have to run unabashedly progressive with progressive tenets now, because this middle thing have failed most of the people, and there are a whole lot of folks that complain about Trump. I'm like, leave Trump's people alone. I like Trump's people, and let me explain what I mean by that. I intend to make Trump's people progressive people, and the reason why is those values are the same values they claim to be looking for, and if that's done, you hear me. Anyhow, let's go ahead and go to the phones before we get too busy. Let's go to line number 2 with Bernard. Come on in, Bernard.
Hey, I'm glad that you have both of these folks on, and I wanted to ask Penny a question. Penny, what do you think is the most important thing about this particular position you're running for? Because a lot of people have no idea what Commissioner's Court's about and how important it is. I believe it's probably the most important thing next to the mayor. But I wanted to know what you think and why people should come out and vote for you. Thanks.
Thank you for your call and question, Bernard. You know, it's hard to narrow it down to one thing. That's where I want to start, because the commissioners have such a far and broad reach across county departments and across county issues. So I'll say 3 that I think have been in the news lately in one form or another, and that people can relate to. First, I would have to say flood, because they're over Harris County Flood Control District, and that's huge because it affects everyone. It's not a partisan issue. It's an issue. Everyone wants their home to be safe, their family to be safe, their businesses, their community centers, their libraries, their schools. So flooding is a huge issue that Commissioners Court decide how to fund, how not to fund, where the funds will go, what areas they'll go to, what part of the flood remedy plan they will work on. All of that's under the Commissioner's domain. Another area that's huge is our criminal justice system and law enforcement system. Just in the recent, I would say 10 to 12 months, the sitting commissioners have voted and spent over $10 million is what the most recent number that I've heard, to fight the bail reform. And that's a case that's gone to 2 levels of appeals, and both have come back saying, hey, Houston, you've got a problem with your bail system. It's unconstitutional. It's not right. It disproportionately affects minority and communities with less income, and it needs to be fixed. And it's still being fought using our tax dollars to keep a system that punishes our communities. I think there's a better way to do it. I know there's a better way to do it. That's sitting down with our elected officials, our law enforcement, our criminal justice elected officials. They're all reasonable, intelligent-minded people, and saying, how are we going to fix this? And we don't have to reinvent the wheel, because other states have successful models that we can mimic or implement here. Yes, that we can emulate here. Another area is, well, like we said, healthcare. Harris County health system affects a lot of people. It can be better. We can provide better services. It's reactive instead of proactive. I think proactive health is huge. Giving people access to proactive health care has been proven actually to reduce illness and cost of healthcare overall. So I think that's a big area where we can change, and I will change. We will not only at the county level, but as I was talking earlier to Egberto, in schools, we can have that in schools. And right now in our precinct 4, we don't have any of that. And we can directly partner with Baylor Health, who's doing it now, and provide some funding to have a really good health program for teens and for their families. And it's expanded. Actually, I could talk more and more about it, but those are 3 areas, and it is hugely important for people to know. Commissioner's Court has largely operated behind closed doors, and so many people being out in the community for the last year campaigning, many people have no idea what Commissioner's Court is, what they do, why it's important, yet it has a huge impact on our daily lives. So I hope that you learn more online, you learn more through these programs, and that you will take action. Commissioner's Court is all the way down on the ballot right before the proposition. So you would think on the last page at the very bottom that it's not a very important position, but it's deceptive. So that's my reply to you, Bernard. Thank you.
Yeah, before I go to the other caller, since you've stated that, let's take that same question and apply it to what you, of one of 435 people, gonna do when you get up there in Congress. What a lot of people don't necessarily know what you do. They just know that you're called congressperson.
That's right. So I'm running for the Texas 10th Congressional District, one of 36 congressional seats in the state of Texas, one of 435 in the country. And the House of Representatives, passes the budget. So that's the big thing. It's the purse strings of the United States government. So we get to decide how that money is spent. Do we want to spend it on a $1.5 trillion tax cut that benefits the 1%, or do we want universal health care? I think you can already tell I'm on the latter side. My priorities for Congress, for their government, is to protect our safety net and to restore common decency to our government. And so just to briefly explain, when I talk about the safety net, I mean everything that we need to have a fair shot at success in this society, in this economy. So that includes healthcare. I support a living wage, which in a place like Houston is at least $15 an hour. I support quality public schools. I want to see seniors retire with dignity. I mean, we have retired teachers that after they serve our country, our community for 30 some years, they now have to make choices in retirement. Do I pay for my prescription medicine, or do I pay my electricity bill? And to me, that's obscene. And, flood control infrastructure, that's also part of the safety net. We have a Republican Congress, including the person I'm trying to replace, who for years ignored the warnings of the Corps of Engineers. I mean, 10 years ago, they say these 2 dams are in imminent danger of catastrophic failure. They do nothing. Even the package they've gotten after Hurricane Harvey, it only brings us back to square one, protecting against 25-year floods. And so we need to make sure everyone's taken care of and safe. And then the other piece, common decency. To me, these are things we might have taken for granted under a different type of leadership, but let's keep mothers and children together. Let's not separate children from their parents at the border when they come to seek asylum. Let's not have a president who supports discrimination, who says white supremacists are on the same par as civil rights advocates. Let's not have a criminal justice system that disproportionately criminalizes Black and brown communities and that forces people to remain in jail because they don't have enough money to pay for bail. So things of that nature are what I would call common decency.
Now, your district also has a large percentage of elderly people. And we know that Social Security is really on the target. In fact, I wrote a blog a couple of days ago that stated one specific thing, and that is the president's economic advisor that used to be on CNBC. I don't recall his name right now. He said, if they hold on to Congress, they will immediately start hitting the people's Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, the social safety net. Do you think that the Texans that are running to represent us right now, the Texas representatives, are making that clear enough, irrespective of the districts that they're in? Because I tell you something, earlier you heard me say, folks need to start discounting ideology and start thinking about their own personal economy. I do not think, and I watch a whole lot of news, I do not think we're pointing that out enough, to let these older folk that are in Harris County, Montgomery County, and all these other counties realize that they're coming after you. They're telling you one thing, but these guys that you've been used to and accustomed to voting for, they are the ones that are going to sign these bills. Are you guys making that case strong enough to these folk?
We have to. I mean, earlier you mentioned we don't need to talk about the president, and that's true. I mean,
right, we
need
don't.
to talk about what actually helps people with their day-to-day lives, you know, the kitchen table issues. And Social Security is extremely important. I mean, these benefits have not been increased to track inflation, to track the cost of living. There are these penalties. If you happen to have a previous job, they want to cut your benefits. The Republicans have tried to raid the fund that supports Social Security, and it's all to pay for their tax cuts for the rich. So we really do need to hit that message. It's so important.
I think it is. Now, also, you gave us very important statistics earlier when you said that McCall votes 98 point something percent of the times, which means all the policies that Mr. Trump wants is the policies he's likely to support. Is that is that message getting across in your entire district?
You know, we have more work to do, and luckily we have about 7 weeks left to get out the word. But yeah, that's you know, this guy McCall, he likes to pretend that he's more of a moderate Republican, but on every issue that matters, he's right next to Trump, lockstep, whether it's health care, tax cuts for the rich, even the family separation policy. This guy McCall is chairman of the House Committee on Homeland Security, and after that policy was announced, he said, yes, this is a strong deterrent to discourage immigration from the South, which is a code word. It's okay to take kids as hostages to convince mom and dad not to seek asylum here. And so we really need to tie him to all of these things. And so we're going to employ every tactic in the book over the next 7 weeks to get that message out.
Okay, let's go to line number 3. Line number 3. Matt, come on in.
Hi, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, my friend. Talk to me. Have a question for one of the candidates?
Yes, I do. You know, I'm really concerned that the Affordable Care Act is being picked apart. I know that the requirement that people buy insurance, which seems like an individual responsibility, is now no longer required.
Right, it's no longer enforced.
Yes, I'm 58 years old and I own my own business. My wife and I and 2 children who are 20 and 22, we pay $2,000 a month for health insurance. And we barely use it, but we don't believe that we're insurable, even though we're relatively healthy people. We won't be insurable if the pre-existing conditions provisions of the Affordable Care Act are taken away. I'd be interested in candidate Siegel's view on the issue of the pre-existing conditions and how should it be dealt with?
Thank you very much, Matt. Thank you for the call.
No, that's one of the most important issues in the Affordable Care Act. I mean, first of all, I believe that we should have Medicare for all, just health care for everyone. But until we get there, that protection for pre-existing conditions, I just one personal story. My cousin, Sam, had to have a liver transplant. He's a doctor. He had a private insurance. His insurance company would cover the operation for him, but not for the donor of the liver.
Wow.
And so that's basically saying you need to come up with several $100,000 to get that liver. And he was able to transfer his insurance to the Affordable Care Act, unfortunately with a couple months delay.
Right.
But they couldn't discriminate against him, even though he had this terrible liver situation. And so he got the donation, the surgery was successful. He's alive today because of that protection in the Affordable Care Act. And so half of this country has some pre-existing condition or another. That's such an incredibly important protection. And I don't understand how these Republican leaders can even look at themselves in the mirror and say, I'm going to take away that protection, because that's, like you said earlier, that's literally causing death with that one decision.
Absolutely. You want to add anything to that, Penny? Or I know that's a sort of a federal question.
Well, I'll just say that even though the commissioners don't have a direct reach into legislation like that, they do support the elected officials who are against health care for the people.
And I think also, and this goes for all people that are running, and I don't like to just say politicians, because some people have a negative connotation when they say politicians. So what? But I think it's an important thing for folks to realize. And by the way, folks, their lines open 713-526-5738. Again, that is 713-526-5738. 5738. What I think is important is everybody has to start informing people, because my post on Daily Coast on Sunday is going to talk about the narrative, and the narrative being, why is it that we don't tell it like it is? In other words, we go out there and we campaign, and this is not on both of you, but I'm saying on a whole lot of folks that are campaigning and don't quite educate the people that we're campaigning for. Nobody, you just talked about the caller asked about pre-existing condition. You spoke about your uncle, and those are stories that everybody has in their families. The question is, they many times do not equate that with their personal situation with your responsibility as a congressperson who's going to go out there and pass laws to protect them. I think it is important, and you tell me otherwise, I think it is important for us to find a way to get the narrative right, so that these people know who's directly impacting their lives, their health, their personal economies, and all of that.
That's right. And you know, we all have to get out of the electoral cycle, right? I mean, because I've been doing this for a year, knocking on doors across the 9 counties, but it's not enough time to really get these messages out. So we need to make politics a year-round sport every year, and do that legwork of reaching out to the voters directly. Because unfortunately, I'm going to areas where Democrats haven't showed up in decades.
Exactly.
For example, in LaGrange, you know, where Beto had a town hall a little while ago, 400 people show up, right? And it turns out half of them are Republicans.
Right.
And he says to them, "Don't y'all know I'm a Democrat running for the United States Senate?" They say, "We haven't seen a Democrat in 40 years.
Right.
We want to see what one looks like," right?
No, I tell you that is not you know, folks, I'm coming to you guys right now, so stay on the line. I'm coming to you, but I have a little story to tell you. I'm, you know, Penny, the Starbucks that I live in just about, I'm in that Starbucks all of the times. I'm sitting down there speaking to a woman. We have a conversation for about 30 minutes to 45 minutes, and we're talking about policy. This is a Republican woman, member of the Republican group in Kingwood, agreeing with all these policies that I'm talking about, saying, "Yeah, I wish my congressman would do that, whatever." And that's how she's talking to me. And then I said, "You know that I am a left-wing Democrat, right?" Actually, I said a left-wing progressives. And then she said, "A Democrat?" And I'm like, "Yes." She then said, "But you're so nice." And I said, "Maybe you should have lunch with a few. You know, maybe you should have." Okay, these lines are getting tied up now, so let's get busy. Let's go to linear number 5 with Keisha. Keisha, come on in.
Well, hello. How are you?
All right. How are you doing, my friend?
I am doing good. I haven't heard from you in a long time.
Yeah, well, I think you were on my show a few months ago.
Yeah, I know. We need to be in constant contact. After all, we are allies.
We are allies. Anyhow, who do you have a question for, my dear friend?
Well, first of all, I would like to say hello to Penny for me. Penny, how are you? I hope that you become the commissioner. You are right on the money with a few things that we're talking about with bail reform, the criminal justice system, and whatnot.
Thank you, Keisha.
You are listening to the people, and I appreciate that.
Thank you, Keisha. I appreciate you saying that. Thank you.
Oh, no worries. I just want to talk to you guys quickly. One of the things I'm concerned about right now is that I'm just worried that a lot of people are not registered to vote. And so we're a non-voting state, and a lot of people don't know how they need to vote. For example, can felons vote? If you are on parole or probation, is there a difference? I think one of the problems in our community is that we need to get educated about the process. And you're right, politics should be a sport year-round. But most importantly, we need to have access to the education.
Keisha, I have a question for you, because I know you are in the field more than just about anybody else. Now, are you seeing that still? Because we have a whole lot of folks in Kingwood or DVDRs, and they're out there registering people left and right. I just got a report saying, "Hey, Egberto, you know, we have 2,000 new registered voters in Harris County." Are you saying that there are still other areas that need?
There's still areas, and I'm going to tell you the area. You know the area I work in the most. I work in
Greenspoint.
I need help. Well, I need people in Greenspoint to help me out here registering.
Keisha, let me tell you something. We need to talk offline, because we have until, what is the last day? October 6th for registration?
October 9th. October 9th. And I'm worried.
Okay, well, let me tell you.
Everybody loves Bono. Bono came down and talked about the community in Greenspoint.
Well, I was there when we were
registered voters.
Keisha, I have a task for you, my friend. Get in touch with me after the show.
Absolutely. And I just want to say one other thing.
Yes.
I'm going to be working with Texas Organizing Project here in Houston. And so I'm going to be working with them for the next 3 months. And so if I could just plug a couple things, they're doing a civil engagement workshop tonight and at the Magnolia Multi-Center Center at 70377 Capitol Street. And they're going to be talking about immigration. I'm going to be doing a little spiel about criminal justice. And Penny just hit everything. Let's settle the Bell lawsuit. Let's reform the justice system, especially the juvenile justice system.
Great.
And then I'm going to be doing one myself on the 24th right here at the top office. So I'm inviting all of your listeners to come on down. But yes, you and I together because we have.
Keisha, send me that stuff so I can put it in the newsletter, okay? Oh, did you? Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and go to, I want Christina. Christina, line number 4. Come on in, Christina.
Hey, this is Christina. I am very happy that Penny on the show.
You're kind of breaking up a little bit, Christina. We can't. Christina, your line is breaking up, so let me tell you what we're going to do. We're going to ask you to call back in and tell us that you're Christina, and we'll get you back in the line. Let's go to Danny, line number 1. Danny,
Hello?
come on in. You're here, Danny.
Hello?
Yes, you're here. Talk to me, Danny.
Okay, I'm going to try to be real quick. I'm on my home commute. But I have some concerns and the questions are for the candidate.
Yes.
About strategies. It seems like the Republicans have been outmaneuvering the Democrats for ages. And when I say that, I'm talking about things like gerrymandering, voter suppression, things like that. I mean, both candidates have some great views as far as the issues. But all of that doesn't mean anything unless we get the numbers out.
Right. I think.
So, what are we doing? Not just to register people, but to counter some of the strategies as far as voter suppression.
Thank you, Danny. I got to stop you there and let them answer because we're filled up on the line. So go ahead and answer that, Mike. And thank you for calling, my friend.
Well, Danny, first of all, I think we have to have big, bold ideas that get people excited. We can't just try to meet Republicans in the middle, but we have to present a clear alternative. So whether it's healthcare, tax policy, housing, you name it, we have to present a real alternative, not just to be Republican light. And then the other thing is we need to show up and be where the people are. For example, Tuesday night I was at Prairie View A&M University, an historically black college in this district that in 2008 played an instrumental role in electing President Obama. But folks haven't shown up since, and the students haven't been engaged since. So we have to show up. You know, I'm working with the students there, working with a marching band.
Are they registered?
Oh, they are registering. You would be amazed. These kids are so professional, so on point. They are registering hundreds of their peers. And now we've got this plan to work with the marching band on election day. We're going to march to the polls. So, yeah, we need to be innovative and show up everywhere.
So you want to add anything to that,
I just want to say real quick, Danny, thank you for calling and making that comment. And I agree with you. What we have found and just contemplating and looking back on it is that when they can't win fair and square, they change the rules of the game. And that's, I think we all need to be vigilant and pay attention to that and predict some of it and be prepared for it. But we also need to encourage, and I encourage all of the voters to be ready to vote. And make sure that you check with Harris Votes, make sure that your registration's in order, make sure you're registered by October 9th. I think we all, not only the candidates have to be vigilant with the plan, but the voters also need to be vigilant, be prepared for those kind of tactics.
Thank you so kindly. Let's go to Emily, line 4.
Hey, Egberto, how are you?
All right, how are you doing, Emily?
I'm doing great, thank you. I just was calling in regards to Keisha, just to say, reach out to the League of Women Voters. We have tons of VDRs all over the metro area, and they are in full force and looking for opportunities to get voters registered. And also, vote411.org is a great place to go before the election, and you can type in your address and your ballot, and all of the people that you can vote for should have responded to the League of Women Voters questionnaire, so you can make informed decisions. And I know that Penny's going to be there because I love her.
All right. Emily, I need to ask you a favor. info@politicsdoneright.com. Could you send me a little bit of what you said to info@politicsdoneright.com?
I will do that.
Hi, Emily, and thank you for calling.
Thank you so kindly. Okay, let's go to Marina. Marina, line number 5.
Sí, buenas tardes. Quería hacer una pregunta en español, por favor.
Claro, puedes hablar español, no hay problema.
Sí, quería preguntarle a Mike Siegel, primero darles las gracias por tenerlo en el programa y quería saber, no sé si ya se hizo esta pregunta, pero si quería saber sobre su posición sobre cuidado médico, sobre healthcare.
Perfecto.
Ok, gracias Marina. Bueno, yo apoyo un programa que se llama Medicare for All que provee seguro médico a todos los americanos que quieren el seguro médico. Para mí es un deber del gobierno federal que todos deben tener lo que necesitan para sobrevivir y para tener éxito en la vida. Y yo quisiera un programa que es universal, que aplica a todo el mundo.
Marina, ¿tienes otra pregunta?
No, por el momento no, pero sí quería darle las gracias al señor Siegel por ser un hombre de tanta compasión. Yo lo he conocido personalmente. Yo perdí a mi sobrino hace como 8 meses del flu.
Lo siento.
Y no tenía aseguranza médica. Así es que es algo que nos toca a todas las familias, sobre todo Texas, que nos afecta tanto el no tener
seguro,
acceso.
el seguro o el acceso al cuidado médico.
Exacto.
Muchísimas gracias, Marina. Sigue escuchando porque vamos a hacer lo que tenemos que hacer. Muchas gracias.
Sí,
¿Está
Marina,
bien?
gracias.
Okay, vamos a, we are going now to Mateo, line number 3. Mateo, you're on.
Oh, is that me, Dale?
Okay, me, Dale. That's fine. Sorry.
Anyway, I don't know who said it before, but I couldn't agree with you more when somebody brought up on the health care. They say the meaning of murder, anyone who knowingly takes a life like that. So I'm glad to hear that you guys are against abortion, because that's the classic example.
I am so happy you brought that up, and I'm not going to ask these candidates to touch that issue. And you know why? I won't. I'm happy for your call for making that particular statement.
Well, I didn't make the statement. Somebody else.
No, I did. I made the statement about murder, but I am so happy that you made the equation. I'm not going to ask these candidates that questions because I don't want to go there with them, but I'll take that question and tell you one specific thing. In our society, there are borders. And not only are there borders, I'm talking about life borders. And when you tell me that you are so intelligent and smart enough to know where those are, I'll be with you. But I tell you one thing, a whole lot of folks that are constantly talking to me about, well, a blastoma or a fetus or whatever is a human being. It's a shame to me that Medicare for all, that things that save people today, that the government, based on your comment, that the side of the government that you support that pretty much murders 2,000 people every year in this state, that you support that, my dear friend, that concerns me. But thank you so kindly for the call. You keep listening because I want to talk to you more extensively on this issue at some other time, just not when I have these two wonderful candidates in here. Let's go to line number 6, Mo.
Hey, Berto, my battery's low, but I'll ask the question really quick.
Really quick, my dear friend.
I wanted to ask respectively the candidates, how are they going to advocate and fight for undocumented immigrants, underdocumented immigrants, and sex workers?
Thank you. You want to start, Penny?
Yeah, sure. Well, the commissioners, I believe, have the power and opportunity to stand up against these things, particularly in Harris County and here locally, and yet they don't. You don't see them in the public eye. You don't see them at press conferences or anything regarding anti-human trafficking or the immigration issues, especially the center that they were recently trying to open here at Emancipation. I think although they may not have direct voting power for legislation, again, I repeat, they support people who, by giving them donations, they support people who do have direct power to make legislation and that are basically right now following the trend of our federal government in okaying the of treatment of human beings. As a commissioner, I will stand up just like the mayor stood up and said, I don't want this in my town. And that had an impact. It had a ripple effect. It empowered the community to stand up and to continue their protest against those type of actions and behaviors. So that's my answer as far as the commissioner's court is concerned, that I will take a stand for people, and I will be a voice against that kind of treatment.
And you actually have local jurisdiction for that. Right. Okay. Mike?
Well, in terms of undocumented, our community here in Texas, I've been fighting for them. I mean, last year on behalf of the city of Austin, I sued Governor Abbott to stop Senate Bill 4, which was this law that, among other things, told police you can stop whoever you want and ask them for their papers. And we know that was encouraging racial profiling and discrimination, because if I go out tonight and I leave my ID at home and jaywalk in front of a police officer, that officer is not going to ask me for my papers.
Right.
And so we know that these laws are encouraging discrimination, not just against undocumented folks, but basically all Latino folks in general. So we need to have a multi-part strategy. We need to protect our documented students, our DACA kids. We need to have comprehensive immigration reform. We need to end family separation policies. And so there's a lot to do, but we need to know that migration is a natural human activity, and we need to treat folks with respect and dignity.
Before I go to Wendell, I want to say something that a Trump voter that I spoke to, after we had a great conversation on immigration, he did himself some research and found out that at his age, if we don't have immigration, Social Security is going to run out for him if there's not the support from immigrants coming into the country. You know what he offered? He offered to write a blog for me stating that as a Trump voter.
All right.
That's what I'm talking about. Okay, let's go to Wendell, line number 1. Wendell, you're on. One more time.
I'm waiting on Wendy.
Wendy, come on in, Wendy. Sorry about that. Okay, Christina, come on in.
Hi, I'm back. I wanted to talk about gun reform. I know both candidates are strong on gun laws. When I talk about reform, I'm talking about a package of legislation, not single. I think we really want to regulate the industry and regulate how guns are used. A package is important. So I really wanted to hear from Mike Siegel on that. Thank you.
Mike?
All right. Well, so I believe in common sense gun reform, and I also believe we need to get NRA money out of politics. And so some of the common sense regulations I would support are universal background checks, these red flag laws that say, hey, if you're under a restraining order, if you're an abuser, we're going to take your weapons from you, and that we're going to get military weapons off the streets. If you talk to plenty of veterans, they'll tell you an AR-15 is designed to kill as many people as possible, as quickly as possible. It's a purely military weapon, has no relation to hunting or self-defense. And so we need to stop the sale of those weapons. And then we also need to basically prevent the NRA from buying our elected officials. I mean, this corruption is obscene. For whatever nice things you might say about Senator McCain, who passed away, he had received about $5 million from the NRA. And that to me is absurd, that one agency can buy our officials and prevent them from doing what's good for the people.
Now, I think the NIH also cannot do any research on the gun effects on our population. What would you do about that?
No, that's absurd. That's a decision that should be immediately reversed.
Okay, excellent. Anything else, Christina? We don't have much time, so we have to be real quick.
No, that's good. I just wanted everybody to hear what he had to say.
Thank you so kindly, Christina. Okay, MOD, número 2.
Hello.
Hello, you're here, MOD.
Hey, let's ask the candidates on how would they, what they think of, and how would they work with, the American legislative.
Oh, I know. Hey, with Alec.
What do they think about them, and how would they work with them?
Right, that's the American Legislation Executive Council. They're a lousy group. Yeah, I'll ask. Actually, that more intersects with you as a congressperson, both on the state congressional level and the federal congressional level. How would you work with Alec?
No, that's right. I mean, Alec, for those folks that don't know, they draft these laws that are extremely corporate friendly, and they shop them around the country. And at the city of Austin, we've had to deal with them because we do things like we'll pass paid sick leave for our workers in the city of Austin, and then suddenly Alec will be lobbying folks to reverse that. I mean, they are against the people. They are against workers across the country. And so when you ask me how I'm going to work with them, the answer is I'm not going to look at anything they give me, unfortunately, because they are really not doing anything that's going to benefit the people.
Yeah, I mean, that is a very dangerous organization. For those who don't know, it's a dangerous organization because what they do is they write canned laws, and then they shop these laws around the entire country. And they shop it around at the state level. They shop it around at the county level. In fact, I tell you, Penny, I wouldn't be surprised if when we have the new council, if they don't shop you a document as far as who and how to handle your flood control. That's how bad they are. They're terrible. Okay, I tell you what, folks, we only have 5 minutes left. MOD, if you have a 15-second question, I'll take it, but then I want these candidates to get a chance to give a little closer.
Just wanted to see if they knew about them and how they felt about them, and well, I like what I heard.
Look, you always come up with those darn good questions, Mr. MOD. Thank you so kindly for calling, my friend. Have a great one. Okay, Penny, why don't you tell us, we give us about 45 seconds or so, and tell the district, why should the district look at you?
Well, Harris County is divided into 4. We have 4 commissioners. Right now on our commissioners court, we have 3 Republicans and 1 Democrat. Everything on commissioners court by law happens by a 3-vote quorum. So if you do the math, you can tell that we don't get much. We don't get much by way of progressive practice, policy, and we need to change that. Another thing is there are no women on Commissioner's Court, and that's a shame. We're behind. Williamson County, Travis County, Dallas County, they all have at least 2 women represented on Commissioner's Court. And it's important because we make up over half the population, and we are not at the table making decisions. And I'll just point out a couple of things. Until women got into government, we did not have child labor laws. So when women get into office and help be a part of the decision making, things change. And so we need that in Harris County. And besides the fact that we have 3 Republicans and 1 Democrat, the other thing is that the Commissioner's Court is the purse, as Mike said, that they are for the state level, is the purse for the county. They spend over $1 billion a year in our local tax dollars. They decide what to fund and what to defund. And right now, they have not been funding programs that are in the interest of the public. And we need to change that. We need to take back public service to our Commissioner's Court. We need to serve the public.
Thank you so
Penny
kind.
Shaw for Commissioner's Court. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Egberto, for having me. For any of your listeners that are in Katy or Cypress or Tomball or Waller County, if you want someone that's going to fight for the people, please vote Mike Siegel for Congress, siegelfortexas.org. Find us on Facebook and Twitter. And really, I'm fighting for a people's agenda, healthcare, housing, decent wages, good retirement, and really to hold these folks accountable, to have real checks and balances in government. If we do make this blue wave happen, and you talked about that, the blue wave is not a force of nature. It's something that we need to manufacture ourselves. We need to stir the water, but we can have real representation in Congress in 2019 and beyond, hold this president accountable, and really get some good things happening.
Folks, we had great candidates. You want real quick?
No, I just wanted to say thank you, Egberto, for having me again, and also thank you, Jesse Ibanez, for organizing this. And I just want to say a vote for Penny is a vote for the people. Please look us up both online, Mike Siegel and myself.
This is Egberto Willies with Politics Done Right. And guess what? I am out.
Thank you very much for listening to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. You can personally reach me by sending an email to egberto@politicsdoneright.com. Remember, Egberto is spelled E-G-B-E-R-T-O. Change starts with you. 90.1 KPFT gives you information not tainted by corporate interest. Please visit kpft.org and contribute. Let's ensure continued access to real information and news remain available to all. Again, thank you very much for listening to Politics Done Right.